So what if the Houthis choke the Red Sea? That's the question the world is now grappling with. Because this is not just about Yemen or Iran anymore. This is about global trade, oil supply, and everyday prices. The Bab El-Mandeb Strait, a shallow stretch between Yemen and Africa, carries nearly 12% of global trade, around 4 million barrels of oil every day. It is the gateway to the Suez Canal, the lifeline connecting Asia to Europe. So it is both narrow, both shallow, and extremely important. Now imagine the route being blocked. Ships would be forced to take the long route around Africa, adding 10 to 14 extra days, massive fuel costs, and huge delays in deliveries. That means costlier goods, rising inflation, and supply shortages worldwide. But the real danger lies in what is unfolding alongside this. The Strait of Hormuz, the world's most critical energy corridor, is already under intense pressure. Nearly 20 to 21 million barrels of oil per day, roughly 1/5 of global oil supply, flows through this narrow passage. Any disruption here sends global oil prices soaring almost instantly. Now imagine both these checkpoints under stress at the same time. Hormuz disrupts energy flow, Bab El-Mandeb disrupts global trade routes. Together they would impact 25 to 30% of global seaborne oil and trade, creating a perfect storm for the global economy. This would mean fuel prices shooting up worldwide, transport costs rising, food becoming more expensive, and supply chains facing severe disruption. From factories to supermarkets, from airlines to households, the impact would be widespread and immediate. For Europe, this would hit the core of its trade routes. For Asia, including India, it would translate into high import costs, expensive fuel, and rising inflation. The Houthis have already demonstrated the capability to target ships in the corridor using drones, missiles, and fast boats. This is not a distant threat, it is an operational reality. If they escalate and effectively choke the Red Sea, the impact could be devastating, especially when combined with tension in the Strait of Hormuz. Together, these two choke points could disrupt a massive share of global oil and trade flows. For Europe, this would hit supply chains directly. For Asia, including India, it would mean higher shipping costs and rising fuel prices. Globally, it would translate into more expensive food, costly energy, and pressure on already fragile economies. The pressure is such that even Trump is threatening to bomb the island of Khark if the Iran fails to open the Hormuz. So the big question is, will Trump bomb Khark Island as the pressure on US build up from both the sides? On this issue, I'm joined by Lieutenant General Arun Sahni and Major General Sudhakarji. Let me just straight away get to the point. General Sahni, do you think that the pressure is mounting on Trump and that is why he's saying that I'm going to bomb Khark Island? Now Houthis have also entered. They are also threatening to choke the Bab El-Mandeb, the narrow strait. And with Hormuz now already choked, do you think that this will directly have an impact on the escalatory ladder of the war, sir?
Good evening, Karthike. Great to be on your show and great to have Sudhakar as well out there. Let me now start by stating that in the fourth or the fifth week of the war, I think the situation has actually got critical for the world. And anything that damages and creates further chaos seems to be on the cards in case the Red Sea gets choked. I think the point that you've made is absolutely right, whether it's for global supply chains, whether it is for trade between Europe and this part of the world, whether it's for Asia or the complete world. I think it's not really important where it's geographically located. More importantly, that both these straits are the gateways in as far as the Indian Ocean is concerned, and it is going to impact the world trade as it stands today. Will the Houthis come in or not? I think the answer lies in the fact that Iran has been resisting all pressure that has been created by the United States of America. The US, I think, has bitten more than it could really chew. The situation seems to be getting more critical because Iran has decided the best way to create pressure on Trump and the US to sort of pull back from this kind of activity is if you increase the spectrum of conflict. You create more pressure points. And I think the latest, this threat by the Houthis to come and block the strait or the Bab el-Mandeb, which is the lifeline from the Red Sea through the Suez into the Mediterranean, is again another pressure point. What will US do? I think this is $1 million question, which today has become very difficult to wager a bet on. But yes, I think Trump has been creating pressure on Iran by moving of troops moving in the Marines, the threat to be able to occupy various islands, which would tend to do it. But I think that is not really the answer. Getting boots on ground sounds a great idea, but thereafter, controlling it in the escalatory continuum is not going to be easy. And casualties and body bags that will come in. And I think we just saw some inputs already coming in from Iran, which showing some of their ground troops getting ready to take fight. I agree with them. They may not have the air and the capability of the Navy, but undoubtedly a ground op in difficult terrain is going to be counting very, very bad as far as the attrition is concerned on manpower. So I think this is, if I had to sum up, undoubtedly it's creating greater pressure on the United States to be able to stop the war, making it more difficult for Trump to extricate himself in a very respectable manner. As you were saying, an off ramp might help him. The third thing is Houthis have been in a ceasefire with the US since October 2025, as you're aware. Sorry, they extended that from March or middle of last year to the Israelis. But I think that story is over with the initial attacks that have already taken place. So I would put it that yes, the situation is getting from bad to worse. Criticality created for the United States of America. Undoubtedly, will America get and put the boots on ground finally is $1 million question. I don't think it's going to be an easy decision. The threat and the pressure tactics will continue. That's why from 5 days, the kind of embargo has been raised to 10 days by the United States. Houthis have still only restricted themselves to firing and indicated that they will block it. But if it happens, as you're aware, the Cape of Good Hope will add another 17, 20 days to trade that has to move from there, creates shipping costs, ensures greater insurance. So I think the world is in for a very, very trying time. I think somewhere sense has to prevail. Hopefully, we might see Trump finally finding an off ramp to get himself out of this
Okay.
situation.
General Sudhakarji, your opening comments, do you think that pressure is visible on Donald Trump when he says, I'm going to bomb Khark? Because ultimately, Iranians have been have very ably, if I may use the word, demonstrated that through asymmetric warfare, not only they have been able to successfully choke Strait of Hormuz, but they have demonstrated that they can also restrict movement of ships and crude in the Red Sea.
Karthike, good evening. Thank you for taking me for your show. And one is humble to share the platform with a very accomplished senior general officer, Hamid Kabandal. And all I would say in response to your question is that one should be clear about certain things.
Okay.
You know, the strategic ambiguity which we are trying to decode has got some important milestones. The important milestones not being talked about is on 29th December 2025. Netanyahu had met Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago in Florida, and nobody knows either in USA or in the investigative journalism. Nobody knows what the talk was all about, but soon, within a couple of days, the American armed forces started getting mobilized. And thereafter, the timeline as articulated by Donald Trump started shifting from 4 days to a week, then to, I think, 2 weeks, then 1 month, and now 1 month is over, and they're stepping into the second month now. How is it going to pan out is anybody's guess. Now, we have to keep this particular thing in the back of our mind that there was a meeting between Netanyahu and Donald Trump, and consequent to that meeting, these events have panned out. We also should be mindful of the fact that while a diplomatic solution was almost reached, there is no justification of bombing a head of a state to death along with his 49 senior ministers or important officials, as also alongside 168 or more than 168 girl students. They were killed, rather, I would say, they were murdered. It was an act, I would say, war crime. And under these circumstances, The special forces have been getting mobilized. There have been lots of talk about the boots on ground. Now we need to understand as to what is the intent. Is Donald Trump, much against the pressures that he is being subjected to in the domestic constituency, going to have boots on ground? My answer is we should be prepared for the worst. Why
Really?
is he doing it? Is that
Sudhakar ji,
the
you are
big
saying that we
question?
should be prepared for a boots on ground operation, sir.
Yes, 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 yes. I'm saying that. Why? There is a logic behind it. The logic is that it is not the oil, it is not the minerals, it is not the dominance, or it is not the Epstein file. Epstein file may be one of the primary reasons, but what is actually driving him crazy is the downfall of the dollar. That is, I'm talking about not the value of dollar, the dominance of dollar in the peak time way back in 70s and 80s was 86% as an international reserve currency. And there was a petrodollar signature agreement had been signed between Saudi Arabia and the USA. We all know what are the clauses in that. Consequent to that, we should always remember sometime in June 2024, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia had gone public to announce that from that day onwards, any country, anybody could buy the crude or the petrol or the fossil fuel in non-dollar currency. So having gone public and made an announcement to this effect, there is a big fear and apprehension in the mind of Donald Trump that the big game, firstly, the dominance of the dollar as an international reserve currency is now nearing to a kind of a collapse. When I say collapse, means all the American bases in Middle East having been retaliated and hit in a very significant manner. Today, the GCC countries are fearing, is America capable of protecting them? Will they enjoy the security commitment given by America? Will America be able to actually ensure that their business related to fossil fuel will be protected? This is the moot question, which is actually going to drive all the GCC countries to shift from petrodollar dominant business to petro yuan. There is a fear. And this is how we talk or push back to China in the dominance of the currency. Yuan, I'm mindful of the fact that today the dominance of yuan is just about 1.37% in the international market. The current account is not open to doing business in the international market. So therefore, this particular issue, there is a fear that the petrodollar dominance may be shifting to petro yuan or non-dollar currency. How does he ensure that he continues to retain the dominance of petrodollar? He will only
Okay.
ensure, provided his presence is there in Middle East, so as to assure and guarantee some form of a security to the same GCC countries who is to sell oil or the crude product in petrodollar. Now he is not very prepared to actually accept this downfall. If this happens, believe you me, the US will not be declining. It will be a collapsed kind of a superpower, not worth its name in 21st century. That is the biggest challenge which Donald Trump is fearing and preparing for. And for that, I say that boots on ground, regardless of the consequences. That's why right from beginning, I have been saying, Kartikeya, it is a second Vietnam, not second Afghanistan. Second Vietnam, because the stage will come wherein they will be kicked out. They will be kicked out by the same Iranians, same Houthis we are discussing, and also many non-state actors, maybe a couple of years from now. Back to you, Karthik.
Okay. Very interesting, sir. General Sani, uh, not in a frivolous way, will there be a taco movement here? Trump always chickens out?
Uh, I think I would again say there is a probability he'll look for an off ramp. I think he also realizes that the negative impact as far as his presidency is concerned, the upcoming elections in November, if body bags start going from here. A war of attrition will see body bags going. So I am going to be rather circumspect. I'd put it down still at a 60-40 situation if I had to say that he'll get boots on ground. That 60%, I don't think so. 40%, well, anything is possible with Trump, as they say. When he wakes up on the morning and when he tweets, he sets the world ablaze. So you really can't say anything. But I would take it that sensible, I would advise, will ensure that he is a little careful about it. Though they've talked about wanting to take out that 1,000 kgs of uranium, a probability. I think the downfall of the dollar and all, I think, is still a very long far off. I don't think you and I sitting here today on these media channels can really see that downfall happening. But there is already trade and bilateral currencies happening, but that doesn't, the dominance of the dollar is not what is really at stake. I think this is, he's bitten more than it is. It was to cut and defang Iran, which has backfired, and Iran's resilience has really come out on top, which was not expected. So I think when you say, when you go to war, your contingencies have to be planned for, I mean, contingency one, two, and three. So I would still put it like this, that he would look for an off ramp. Maybe he'll talk about getting out from there. I think I'll be very hesitant to put boots on ground. In a place, in a terrain which is extremely difficult and supports asymmetric warfare. And today, if you've got guerrilla warfare tactics being done by them, the resolution of the Shia community to come and fight and resist what has happened on a civilizational state is something which cannot be underwritten in frivolous comments of Trump wanting to change the thing. He has seen regime change doesn't matter. People are there in the pipeline that will come in. Destruction can happen. He might leave if he does decide to go in boots and ground, and undoubtedly, as I think Sudhakar is right, sometime down the line they will vacate. They will leave Iran in the same state of turmoil as they've left Iraq. And so you have Lebanon, you have Iraq, which is burning. You've got this area, which is surviving. Will he really be able to get the uranium, which must be really deep down and spread all over the place, is again an issue for special forces. If they haven't been able to, the Israelis have still not been
Okay.
able to hit the Houthi leader, who still survives after all the killings that they've done on the hierarchy. I think it's easier said than done. I would be circumspect. I would continue this game of leverages and counter leverages. I would see at some stage some kind of a break happening, some kind of a break happening. He occupying land is the easiest answer, but as I said, then how do you
You
control
can
this?
occupy it, but will you be able to hold it? I think that's
I think
the real
that's where
trick.
the
You can
question
always
will.
go and occupy it. Are you able to hold the land? That's the
I
most.
would do it. Yeah, I would look at leverages of getting more troops in place. The
Okay.
Marines being there, the probability factor. I would look at it in that manner as of
Okay,
now.
I'll take a closing comment from General Sudhakarji. General Sudhakarji, whether they are able to hold the land or not is not relevant right now. Do you think that Americans going for a scorch the earth sort of a bombardment in Iran, is that a possibility? Something which did, because you said it's going to be a Vietnam. In Vietnam, they did something that called scorch the earth.
Okay. Now, scorch the earth concept, which he tried out or the USA tried out in Vietnam, may not be practiced here.
Okay.
There are a couple of multiple angles also, if you allow me, if you have time. Number one point is every day extension of the current conflict by one day puts USA in a very serious handicap. What is the serious handicap? One Patriot missile, or say Tomahawk, or the Interceptor, the production of each of these lethal weapons or the warheads is dependent on availability of some critical minerals, which is being held, and the full dominance, 97% dominance of processing is with China. Now, as on today, we are discussing this issue. USA has been put behind its strategic reserve level almost by 5 years in timeline back, I would say, because firstly the minerals are, they have a stock of 90 days. Out of 90 days, 30 days are over, 60 more days are left. Now, for 60 days, you will not believe that the F-35 quantity, 50 of them had been placed an order. Now, F-35, they have been subjected to dilly-dallying because it requires some special variety of critical minerals which are held only with China. China has already weaponized them, and no, given out it's clear this thing that if they continue to maintain pressure on Iran, China is going to
Okay.
definitely stop the supply. And second and last point is that when we talk about the boots on ground, I am not convinced myself because there are too many imponderables, too
Okay.
many factors which are resisting, holding him back. Yet he's going to go in because the day he withdraws, that is why I'm calling it as escalation entrapment. The more he tries to extend the conflict, the more he gets into the
Okay.
entrapment of dependency on China and entrapment of losing the dominance of dollar.
Okay, that's the word for me. Escalation, entrapment. We'll discuss it some other time. Thank you. Thank you both of you for joining.